Welcome back to the next session. In this session, we are going to see in detail about introduction to RCC element. In previous session, we have seen what are the basic terms that we should know in design of reinforced cement concrete elements. Let's get into the session. The first topic in introduction to RCC is objective of structural design. We should know what are the objectives of a structural design that should be fulfilled while designing the structures. First parameter is stability, second one is strength, third one is serviceability. The stability in the sense it should prevent overturning, sliding, buckling of the structures so that the structure is found to be stable for the load acting on it. Next one is strength. The strength is referred here, that is the resistance to the force acting on it. So the member like a slab, beam, column, everything will be designed based on the load acting on it. So the next one is serviceability. So the serviceability here refers to the durability and how long the structure is found to be safe without any problem in it. That is a service life of the structure. So it should be free from corrosion, carbonation, crack, deflection, etc. So the next one is steps in design of RCC structures. So these are the 5 important steps that every civil engineer should follow while designing a structure. First one is the conceptual design. So the conceptual design means every engineer will have some perception about the designing of structures. So everyone will have a different ideas in creating a plan of a residential building or any commercial structures. So as a first step, we should make a conceptual plan of the structure which we are going to design. After finalizing this plan with a client, then we have to analyze the structures for calculating the shear, loads, moment that acting on it. So usually we use a manual method of design for calculating the shear, bending moment, reinforcement. But to make our work easier, we depend on the softwares like StatPro, ETABS, SAP 2000 for completing the work and getting the result in a short duration. So after designing the beam, column, slabs, we have to design the foundation so that the structure will be found to be stable. So after finalizing the cross section of all the elements, we have to prepare a structural drawings. So how much length the main reinforcement should be, what would be the spacing between main bar and the secondary bar. Like that we have to prepare a structural designing. So this structural drawing will be useful for the bar bend bus to make a proper decision while cutting the bars, developing the hook bars, etc. And this is the structural detailing for preparing the hook length, development length by a bar bender. So the first figure shows the straight bar, at what distance the hook has to be provided. Here the hook is provided the distance of 4D, 4 times the diameter of the bar, and the second one is the bar which is made cranking at 45 degree at the length of L by X to the L by 6 from the edge. The next one is double bent of bar. Then the fourth one is overlapping of bars. Then fifth one, sixth one shows the stirrup bars, how it is bented So as a civil engineer, we must know this software which will helpful for us to complete the project in a short duration of time. So we are all familiar about AutoCAD, which we use it for preparing a 2D plan or some 3D elevation. So in order to get a realistic view of a building, we go for Revit architecture or Autodesk Civil 3D softwares. So for analyzing the structure, we use as StatPro, ETABS, SAP 2000. In MNC companies, they are using a project scheduling softwares so that they schedule each and every works that should be carried out in a project, and at which duration it should be started and at which duration the project should be completed. So for that they have using Primavera, MS Project, etc. So for example, the upcoming slides will help you the steps that we have followed in making a structural design. First step is the conceptual plan. Here we have prepared, here's the plan of apartment which have 4 flats with a 2-bedroom, hall and single kitchen. So after preparing the plan, we get the concurrence from the client, where after the opinion from the client, we can go for analysis. So here we have prepared the structural frame model of a building, and after creating the plan, we have to assign the properties like beam, column, cross section has been applied, and the loads acting on the member has to be assigned to it. After done the analysis, we can get the detailing report in which we can see what number of bars has to be provided, main diameter bar which is has to be provided, and what would be the spacing provided is mentioned in the report. And this one is the column detailing. So the next topic is types of loads acting on the structure. So these are the 5 important loads that we have to consider while designing any of the structures. So the first one is the dead load, then live load, wind load, snow load and seismic load. So the first one is dead load. So dead load is the self weight of the structure, which includes the self weight of the beam, column, slab, wall and the non-living things that we have placed in the structures. And then live load. So the live load indicates the moving loads like human beings. For a public building, we have to design the live loads based on National Building Code and IS 456 2000. So in which they have mentioned what is the maximum load that we have to consider for designing a structure. So the live load for the non-crowded area would be 3 kN per meter square. If it is a public building or a commercial building where the moving loads will be more, there we can consider the maximum load would be 5 kN per meter square. So the next one is a wind load. If we go for a high-rise building, we have to consider the 2 important forces other than dead load and live load are wind load and seismic load. So being a India, here we consider only a wind load, seismic load, live load and dead load. In northern countries like America, UK, they have considered the snow load so that it would create some dead load in it. So the wind load and the seismic load should be considered in a structure when its height reaches, or if we design the structures more than 10 meter height, we have to consider the wind load and seismic load. So the wind load in x direction and the z direction, positive x direction, positive z direction, negative x direction and negative x direction. And the seismic force also to be considered in both the positive and negative directions. So these are the load combinations which is mentioned in IS 875 part 5. The load combinations are 1.5 times of dead load plus live load. Here the DL refers the dead load, LL refers the live load, WL refers the wind load in x direction, WL minus x refers wind load in negative x direction. Likewise in y direction, and the wind force in negative y direction. So we have a code book IS 456 2000, SP 16, IS 875. In IS 875 we have a 5 parts. Part 1 is for dead load, part 2 for live load or imposed load, wind load, part 4 for snow load, part 5 for seismic load. We have a separate code book for seismic load, IS 1993. So these are the load combination which is mentioned in IS 875. In softwares like StatPro, we can create a auto combinations so that we can find out at which combination the structure is found to be critical and getting failure. The important code book that we have to follow is IS 456 2000. As a civil engineer, we have to stick on to the rules and codal provisions that is mentioned in IS 456 2000 for blind and RCC. So in IS 875 1987, there are the 5 parts. First one is for dead load, second one is for imposed load or live load, third one is for wind load, fourth one is for snow load, fifth one is for special loads like creep, shrinkage, temperature, soil, fluid pressure combinations. So there will be an exclusive codebook for earthquake load combinations, IS 893 2002. The name of the codebook would be Criteria for Earthquake Resistant Structure. Here in part 1 they have mentioned about the general provisions and building. In part 2 it is for liquid retaining structures like tanks. In part 3 for bridges and retaining walls. Part 4 for industrial structures. Part 5 for dams and embankments. And the design handbooks that we are using are SP 16 1980, SP 34 1987, which is the handbook on concrete reinforcement and detailing, and SP 24, that is the explanatory handbook. So the next one is design philosophies. As I told you earlier, there are the 3 different methods that were adapted for designing structures. So the design philosophies describes how the RCC member has to be designed and what are the parameters that we have to keep in mind while designing the structure. The first one is we have to decide the size of the member, that is a cross section, length and breadth of the member, and how much amount of reinforcement is required for that particular cross section. So after finalizing the cross section, we have to check whether the section is safer to carry the load actually acting on the structure. After it is found to be satisfactory, we have to check what would be the maximum moment, what would be the minimum moment, at which moment it will get the failure, how much amount of reinforcement is to be provided, how much of distribution reinforcement required for it is to be finalized. So in this slide we are going to see what are the various methods were used for the design of RCC structure. The first one is a working stress method, second one is the load factor or ultimate load method, and third one is the limit state method. So the first 2 methods are the outdated method, And third method is currently followed in all the design projects that was executed by engineers in construction of structures. So the third method is the combination of first two methods. Let's see in detail. So the first method is a working stress method, which is also called as WSM. This method is the oldest method used for the designing of any structures. So in this method, the basic assumption is the elastic theory. The elastic theory is based on the Hooke's law. As we have studied in strength of material, the Hooke's law states that stress is directly proportional to the strain within the elastic limit. So here the working stress method is based on the concept of elastic theory. They have assumed that both the steel and concrete is found to be elastic. As per IS 456, they have used the factor of safety value as 3 for the compressive stresses in concrete and 1.78 for steel. The main drawbacks of the working stress methods are our assumption, that is the concrete is elastic, came to be not true, as the concrete behaves inelastic. We all know that the concrete is strong in compression, weak in tension. Here they have used the factor of safety stresses not for the loads, they have calculated only for the stresses. So this method is found to be uneconomical, but till date we are using this method only for the designing of bridges and water structures, that is water tanks, overhead or underground water structures. We are using this working stress method. Next method is a load factor method, and another name for the load factor method is ultimate load method, ULM. In this method, the ultimate or the collapse load is used as the design load. In previous working stress method, they have used the stress value. Here in load factor method, we are using the design load as a collapse load. So this ultimate load is obtained by increasing the working or service load by some factors. As we use the factor of safety value as 3 in working stress method, here we are using some factor value multiplying with the working load, that is the actual load acting on the structure. That factors are called as a load factors. So the advantages of ultimate load methods are, this method is found to be more realistic when compared to the working stress method, as the ultimate load is taken as non-linear behavior of the concrete, and the section can be defined as a thinner section, and the requirement of steel will be less in ultimate load method when compared to the working stress method. So the main drawback of ultimate load methods are, as the section is thinner, it get failure, and it cannot withstand the heavier loads and causes the excessive deformation and cracking. So, and the structure is found to be unserviceable. So as it does not satisfy the serviceability requirement, this method is replaced by the another method called a limit state method. So as I told you earlier, the limit state method is a combination of working stress method and the ultimate load method. So in this method, the factor of safety is considered for both the loads and the stresses acting on it. So the acceptable limit of safety and serviceability requirements before failure occur is considered here, and it is called as a limit state. The two important limit states that considered in the design as per IS 456 are limit state of collapse and limit state of serviceability. The parameters which has to be considered under the limit state of collapse are limit state of collapse, that is flexure, then shear and bond, torsion and compression. The parameters that correspond to the serviceability requirement are deformation, that is deflection, cracking, and vibration that occur on the elements. The properties of concrete and steel are: the strength in tension is found to be poor in concrete and good in steel. The concrete is found to be sound with a good compression, and the steel is found to be unsound for steel because the slender bar will buckle. The concrete will have fair strength for shear, and the steel will have a good resistance to the shear. The concrete will have a good durability, but the steel have a less durability as is found to be corroded when it exposed to atmosphere. The concrete is found to be fire resistant with good sound value. The steel is found to have a poor fire resistance because as it get melted when it reaches the higher temperature. So in this session we have seen introduction to the RCC elements, what are the objectives of a structural design, what are the steps that we have to follow in designing a structure, and what are the types of loads acting on the structures, what are the load combinations that is prescribed in our Indian standard code books, what are the design philosophies were followed for designing the structures, that is a working stress method, ultimate load method, limit state method, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the advantages and limitations were explained. Thank you.